was born in Fall River. Well, I first got interested in photography when I was in high school. And at the time, of course, I didn't know much about photography, but I had a lot of fun taking pictures. I was always very visually oriented, I guess. I had a very curious mind. I was very fortunate. My parents were both immigrants from Greece. My father was an extremely intelligent person. He had a very small, hole-in-the-wall grocery store and was very, very concerned that his children, his 3 children, get a good education. So, as a result, the most important priority for me was to get an education. I knew from the age 10 that I wanted to be a doctor. After high school, of course, I didn't have any opportunity to do much photography because I was working 5 nights a week going through college, Tufts University and Tufts Medical School and so forth. So radiology is a field in which you're in your office and you have a bunch of images up on the wall and then you dictate as you interpret these things. And I was the first one that did radiotherapy in Fall River, and I also set up a nuclear medicine laboratory. One of the aspects of radiology is diagnostic radiology, which includes taking x-rays, and you form diagnoses and interpretations on the basis of minute detail. So it was a natural for me to want to work in the darkroom, which I enjoy very much. So one is related to the other, I think. When I finally settled in Fall River and we were living there, our children were going to school, I did have some camera equipment. Actually, I started seriously studying photography in around 1970, and I read voraciously both the works of the famous masters, but also studied very carefully all their photographs, and also read voraciously about the technique of photography. And one day the boys decided that they were interested in photography. And no sooner than maybe 2 or 3 months they lost interest. But that was my impetus. I set up a serious darkroom. I also set up a portrait studio in my basement, so to speak, a makeshift type. Then I was going full blast. And I was working my way up from 35 millimeter camera to an RB67 Mamiya, to a 4x5 plate film camera, eventually to an 8x10. And I started going to the workshops by Fred Picker in southern Vermont every summer. It was a wonderful experience. And then after that, I found an opportunity to go to the southwest of the United States and attend workshops. When I'm out there looking around and scouting places, I will see something and I know immediately that I must photograph that particular thing. It's the emotional response. Unbelievable. I've never seen that like that before. It hits me inside, chemically or hormonally, I don't know. But when I look at it, I'm very much in awe of it or stunned by it or interested in it. I must photograph it. And then the next thing that goes through my mind is I pre-visualize as to how I'm going to photograph it. You know, what focal length, what do I want to include in the picture? The composition is crucial. So I stop everything, I set up, and I do that. It may take several hours before I get, when the lighting is right, where I can take that actual picture, you know. It's something which is instinctual. At no time have I ever done any work at all in color. And I find color distracting when one is trying to display an emotion. I've discovered my 2 primary interests are probably the Southwest and Central Greece, where we have these wonderful monasteries. It's rather interesting because the monasteries of Meteora were built on these colossal sandstone eminences, which are exactly analogous to those in Arizona and Utah. When I get into the dark room and I close the door and turn the lights off, I isolate myself from emotionally from the outside world, all my cares and worries or whatever, and I get into a kind of a meditative state where I'm concentrating on what I hope to achieve in that particular session, but at the same time I'm excited at the possibility of what I might be able to achieve. I should also point out I get exactly the same emotions when my head is under the dark cloth when I'm out on the field. Those who have not had the interest or benefit of having gone through studying and understanding the classical procedures of photography are really at a disadvantage, because unless your craft is there, no matter what your emotions may be, if you're not good at what you're doing, then it requires more than innate ability. It requires study and hard work. After you have mastered that, you're then in a much better position to be even more creative and even better at what you hope to achieve. In general, I would say all of my work in photography has been a metaphor for my spiritual development. I was always quite interested and awed by the cosmos and my position. What am I doing here? Where am I in relation to the cosmos? I also became very much interested in those that preceded me and how they lived. My work is primarily emotional rather than intellectual in the sense that you won't see people in them. And in general, you won't see modern structures except for the work that I've done in Providence, obviously. And hopefully those who take the trouble to look at them and think about them, they can understand what I was thinking and feeling when I took those pictures. Personally, I'm doubly blessed. I've had two passions in my life. The first being, of course, medicine, and the second being photography. I feel I'm especially lucky to be on this earth before I leave. Equally important, I wanted to leave something for my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and so forth, to look at my work and get into my brain and my heart.